welcome into Beyond the Buzzer, a Courier Sports podcast. I'm your host, Courier Sports writer Ethan Petrik. Joining me, Jim Nelson, Courier Sports editor, and Courier Sports writer Donald Promnitz as well. Gentlemen, I wanted to start the show discussing Dyke New Hartford's great weekend on the volleyball court. The Wolverines beat number 4 West Des Moines Valley, number 10 Pleasant Valley, number 1 Waukee Northwest, and number 2 West Des Moines Dowling, as well as a win over number 6 Ankeny Centennial. A huge weekend for the Wolverines, and it's a weekend that's going to make me look really smart later in the show. When you guys first saw that, I'm guessing the emotion or the feeling wasn't surprise like it wasn't for me, but it was certainly a renewed respect for what that little 2A team can do.
Certainly, there's a lot of question marks about this team. They got upset in 5 sets last year in the 2A state final. They graduated 3 players that were key players, and yes, they had three Division I players coming back, but they're going to have a lot of new pieces into that thing. They're stepping up. This is the tournament that they play in annually down in Ankeny, and go in and they beat the best schools in the state of Iowa again to show that they're student for student. Doesn't matter size-wise, they're one of the best programs in all the state of Iowa, and that's an impressive early weekend for the Wolverines, kind of showing everybody, we graduated a lot of talent, but we just kind of reload.
We'll discuss what the Wolverines have on the court up ahead in a later topic, but we'll go ahead and move right in. We'll make Donald the center of attention here as we discuss the upcoming season here in the Metro. Starting out with Waterloo East, Donald, can you give us a little bit of a synopsis about what you wrote on the Trojans last week and kind of what they're expecting for their season?
Well, I'll start off by saying that it's interesting that all 4 high schools here in the city of Waterloo are experiencing new coaches this season, but we'll start with Waterloo East. Last year, Coach Montgomery got the Trojans up to their first winning season in, I believe it was 12 years, and until they unfortunately fell in the first round of postseason to Iowa City West, and something of an upset. But they definitely want to continue that success under the helm of Coach Grace Patterson. And she says the girls are really, really enthusiastic about it. They want to get the Iowa Alliance Conference like they did last year. And a lot of their key players have graduated, but they've got girls like Jalea Stanford, Danica Chamberlain, Myra Norman, all who got a lot of good time on varsity last season, and they are looking at them to helm that. So it's going to be really exciting to see what they are able to do for East.
It says here, Coach Patterson told you that they're looking at winning the conference, and it seems like since they moved to that Iowa Alliance Conference, the Trojans have just been really confident about what they can do. It seems like the move out of the Mississippi Valley has really benefited all of the programs at East. Is that kind of the sense that you two have gotten? Is that this conference switch has brought about greater hope, greater expectations, and just renewed energy amongst the Waterloo East programs?
Yeah, I think that was what the direction of the moving to that conference and the creation of that conference is. The socioeconomic part. There was a socioeconomic piece to that part. Where they're going to be playing similar schools, not facing the powerhouses of the state over and over, the teams with all the wealth, and that's probably the wrong thing to say. But if you look in the Des Moines suburban, the statistics showed it. I mean, they went like 10 years without a Des Moines public high school winning a football game against one of the suburban schools. That streak was snapped last year. I think I want to say Des Moines Roosevelt beat one of the Waukee schools, or I believe, and which was that hadn't happened in more than a decade. It was like 1,000 games or something. It was a crazy number that had been so long since one of them had won the game, and they were looking at that. Those suburban schools the fact is they have more money, they have better facilities, and a lot of people are moving out of the metros in Des Moines, and I'm just referring to Des Moines. And if you look at Waterloo East, they're in a similar situation. You look at the Mason Cities, the Marshall Towns, and the Fort Dodges. That they just don't have the resources that they can. And there's a telling thing is I read a column in a Fort Dodge Messenger by a buddy, and they would go down, their 8th graders would go down, or 7th graders would go down and play the Waukee Northwest B team, and they'd lose 65 to 12, and it was like, and you're already dispirited as you're a 7th grader, and attrition starts going. And so they were looking to find ways to be more competitive, get more people out, get more excited, so they're playing equal numbers. Right or wrong, I think that's helping. It's helping them out. It's getting more kids out. There's going to get more kids out. And eventually, when you start getting more kids out, when they aren't getting beat down and they're losing all the time, and they're getting some winning culture behind them, they might not get to the state tournament right now, but they're setting the foundation for the future teams to get there, because they're going to get more excitement, and they're not losing every night in, night out, and they're having chance. They're in competitive games. They might lose the game, but instead of getting a 3-set sweep in a volleyball, they might win in 5, and it's competitive throughout, and that creates excitement. So I'm getting way down in the minutia there, but I think this has been a good thing for Waterloo East. Looking to find similar schools with similar socioeconomic backgrounds.
If you ever need to fill time on a radio show, Jim Nelson's your guy. Donald, I want to ask you, did you get like a number of wins that they're expecting from Waterloo East? Did you get
not the number of wins, but their season last year was 19-14, which obviously the goal I imagine would be to surpass that.
So Waterloo East,
a 20-win season at minimum, I guess you could say.
So Waterloo East looking for 20 wins. I wonder how long it's been since Waterloo East won 20 games. Well, we'll go ahead and shift gears, move across to the other side of town. We'll talk about the Waterloo West Hawks, and you're going to hear a similar story to what you're probably going to hear with basketball this year, as the Hawks are without Sahara Williams and Sierra Moore. Donald, talk to me about what the Hawks are discussing coming into the season. What's the message from coach, and what's kind of the expectation for this team?
Kind of the inverse. They were 13-19 last year. Kind of a rough year for Waterloo West, and again, losing key pieces like Sahara Williams and especially Cece Moore. This was really her sport. While she came into her own as a captain, while Sahara Williams was in Hungary playing basketball. But they're looking at the old film from last year, trying to find those gaps, and the big thing that they're trying to instill right now is discipline. They're looking at new senior or upperclassmen to act as captains. Jada Smith is someone that he has put a lot of confidence in and a lot of trust in, and he actually wanted me talking to her just as much as he wanted me talking to him during that session. So I'm going to be curious to see what they're able to do. Unfortunately, the big West-East game was delayed due to the intense heat that we've been experiencing over the last week. But, it's always excited to see a crosstown rivalry game. We did get to see it with football, and I'm looking forward to seeing it with volleyball.
That game was moved to September 11th at West High, just for everybody, all our fans out there.
September 11th, West High. Jim, could you get us a time on that game?
Well, they'll have some preliminary games, so they'll have some, freshmen and a JV game beforehand. So roughly around 7 o'clock is when the first serve will be made. It could be 7:15. It depends on when how long those preliminary games take.
And Jada Smith says she's looking to bring a positive mindset as a leader of the Hawks. And you can read that in Donald's story. We're just giving you guys an overview of all of these teams here. If you want to go a little bit more in depth, Don has a story that is up on our website. It was in print last Thursday. Go check that out. It's a Metro preview. New coaches, returning talent is the headline on that one, so go check it out. We'll keep it in the Waterloo Metro. I'm going out of order here. Let's keep it in the Metro, finish up Waterloo before we move over to the Tigers. Let's talk about Columbus Catholic a little bit here. 11-29 last year, but they got a lot of returning talent on that squad. Donald, talk to me about, you mentioned one player in particular last week that you think has a real chance to shine. Just take me through these big names that the Sailors are returning.
Right. Well, this is going to be the interim year for Coach Brittany Weber. She is taking over for this season, and Morgan Bradley and Isabel Nolan are two names that were brought up as people who are going to really lead the way, but someone who has made tremendous strides in just her freshman year, Sophia Keys, who has excelled in, of course, girls basketball, She was a state qualifier in the girls long jump and track and field, and I believe one other event. Not sure off the top of my head. And then now that's being shown in her second year for volleyball. She's she's only, I think, going to get better with each season, and it's been exciting to see the kind of talent that she is bringing to the table with every sport, and I look forward to seeing how that translates in a sophomore year in volleyball.
And of course, Morgan Bradley leading the Sailors last year with 317 kills. Isabel Noland also number 2 there with 175. I do like what the pieces the Sailors are bringing back. It'll be interesting to see how this 1 year off for their coach shakes things up a little bit. I doubt that Brittany Weber's going to try anything super brand new or super new with those girls. But I don't know. When I got to see the Sailors last year, I was certainly surprised by the record I ended up seeing at the end of the year. I saw them go toe-to-toe with Denver here in Waterloo, and that Denver team made it to state, had Houston Cougar, Kayla Knowles running the show, Channing Johnson, another top distributor as well. And Columbus didn't back down from Denver. I was really surprised to see the ultimate record for those Sailors. I think that getting a lot of these players back is going to be super beneficial. Jim has certainly got a comment. He's leaning into the microphone here.
Me? I get a chance? Okay. No, I think, when you look at Columbus record, they play in the North Iowa Cedar League, which I think had six teams make the state tournament last year. And, probably 2 or 3 others that were worthy of making it. So you can have a record and you look, oh man, they were 11-21, and then you think about, God, they played so many state tournament teams. So that's one thing you got to look at. That's a meat grinder of a conference. You're going to play somebody really good every night. So, and that's all I was going to say really on that is it's just a tough league, and if you can get through that, you're going to have a chance to do some big things.
Yeah, and I think I could have made my entire list of teams to watch that we'll talk about later, and ICL teams. So it's a tough conference to come out of unscathed, and I think the Sailors have a real chance to improve on that record last year if they're able to bring back that same energy and that same execution. Let's finish up with our final school here in Waterloo Christian. I saw their season come to an end against North Tama, who ended up taking the number 1 seed and then losing to AGWSR. We discussed that game a little bit last week. Don, that was your favorite sporting event to ever watch or your most enjoyable. Talk to me about what Waterloo Christian has after what was a bit of an encouraging season, but maybe ended a little bit earlier than they had hoped.
Ended earlier than they'd hoped, but again, this sort of like East was just a year of tremendous progress. A lot of growth, though, in Waterloo Christian sports in general, not just adding new programs, but seeing great track records for boys and girls basketball, too. And then we saw it in volleyball last year, and there is that pressure to build up on that. Of course, new coach again. Coach Teresa Renaud is gone, and now it is time for Coach Laura Johnson to take over. But she's got a lot of help going in. Of course, the big name there being Reagan Wheeler with 285 kills. She was one of the best players in the Iowa Iowa Star Conference last season, and we're looking forward to senior year, seeing what she's able to accomplish. She could potentially become the school's all-time kills leader if she isn't already. So it's going to be interesting to see what she does.
Yeah, you got a little sentence here in your story. And while navigating the Iowa Star Conference is a tall order, Waterloo Christian has the roster to win. So it certainly seems like there's plenty of excitement surrounding that program coming into the year. Let's shift gears and move over to our final Metro team here in Cedar Falls, another team which I unfortunately got to watch the end of their season last year, and it was definitely earlier than they were expecting, defending that state title from 2021. Gotta get my years correct here. They certainly expected to return to state with Katie Remmert leading the show, and they lose in that regional final game, and there was a lot of emotions on the court that night. Donald, how are they navigating that emotional end of last year and using it for fuel this year?
Well, they definitely do have a chip on their shoulder after last year, and they've got a lot to prove after the sub-state finals. And Coach Johnson says that they are, turning that anger into positive energy, and they are, turning that into some very impressive volleyball play. Remmert is no longer with the program. Of course, she has gone on to graduate. But they do have Carly Straylau, Laura Sandville, Kyra Brandfield, who are doing a tremendous job of picking up where she is left off. Obviously, big shoes to fill, but they seem to be really doing it and really, finding their groove as they get ready for the season, or as it starts.
And what a pro radio move by Donald there to not spoil the other player on Cedar Falls that I have on my players to watch list. Thank you for that, Donald.
You are very welcome.
Jim, go ahead and drop into that microphone there with that comment that you're stewing up.
You think I got a comment?
You definitely do. I can
You
see
sure?
it. I can see
Okay.
it.
Well, I can tell you, the only thing I got to say is, Cedar Falls is also that same Ankeny Centennial tournament we talked about and referred to with Dyke New Hartford. They won a couple. They lost a couple really tight matches. They were in all 4 of them. So, they went toe-to-toe with some of the best. So I think they got a good, Coach Johnson will say they got a pretty good gauge of where they got to go and what they got to do here as they enter they come into the Mississippi Valley Conference play starting this week.
Yep, and they did debut in the IGHSAU top 15. I believe they were in at number 4.
That could be correct, yes.
Okay, I believe that is where they're at. Someone can fact check me, but I believe I am 100% correct there. Maybe a little overconfident, but we'll see. We'll go ahead and shift gears to our 5 area teams to watch, getting outside the metro here. And I think you can't start a list of 5 teams to watch without talking about that Dyke New Hartford team that we led the show with. This is a team that debuted at number 1 in the IGHSAU Class 2A rankings. They're bringing back Peyton Peterson, Jaden Peterson, Marin Bixby, and their libero, Abby Jensen. I like the pieces that they have returning. Jim mentioned who they have going out the door, and those are going to be big pieces that they have to replace. But as we saw this last weekend, they've certainly found they have found the pieces to replace that departing talent, and I think all signs are pointing to another incredible state tournament run. Jim, I know you got a little bit of a conflict of interest talking about Dyke New Hartford, but I'm going to have to ask you, as a man who has seen this entire, just all 4 years of this senior class at Dyke New Hartford, what are your expectations for this team? I don't want to talk about maybe their expectations, but what do you think you can expect for this team?
I think that they're aiming for that. They want to get back. They played in 3 state championship matches. I mean, this might be the greatest senior class Dyke New Hartford has ever had. You can talk about Peterson, but I mean, they've had so many other athletes that have contributed to. In addition to being 3 state volleyball finals, they've won 3 straight Class 2A state basketball championships. They've been good in track and field. The softball team has really improved a ton. And a lot of those players play softball. It's just an incredible run of. I think of the senior class. I don't without a doubt. I don't think they've ever had. Matter of fact, I'm going to say it. They've never had a senior class full of young ladies that have been this talented, and and they've got a long, illustrious history in sports at Dyke New Hartford. But this team, I think they're aiming. They're hungry too. They lost the state final in a match that a lot of people, everybody thought they were pound for pound the best team last year in the state of Iowa, and they lost to Western Christian, one of their arch rivals. Western Christian's down 3A, they're in 2A, so all eyes are on them to win a 2A title. I think that's the only thing they're thinking. I don't think they're thinking about Tuesday's match, but I think they would be disappointed if they don't win another 2A title this year.
And you talk about Ellie Knock, Sophia Folkerts, and Madeline Norton leaving big shoes, but it opens the door for a player like Claire McCumber, who did show out in limited opportunity last year. She saw action in 46 matches. It's a player that maybe doesn't have starting experience, but has a lot of experience. And so I think that's the craziest thing about Dyke New Hartford is you don't normally, when you're a 2A team, you have that top-end talent or you have depth. You don't usually have both. And this is a team that has had that unique blend where they have had that top-end talent and they've had a ton of depth. And I think that the program is just rolling forward. Diane Harms has done a beautiful job building a volleyball powerhouse over to the west a little bit here.
I do have another comment.
Go ahead.
You said you could have easily included all 5 of your teams to watch from the Nickel. You actually did.
Did I?
You did.
Oh, that's embarrassing. I was all right, there we go. I thought
Sorry,
I'd avoid it.
We have to jab Ethan every once in a while here.
I'm new to Iowa, people. I think I know everything, but I don't quite know everything yet. We'll go into number 2 of all teams from the Nickel, apparently. And AGWSR, Don mentioned how this was the winner of his most enjoyable sporting event to watch. They were the only sub 500 team to make the state finals state tournament last year. They upset the number 1 seed North Tama Redhawks. They lost some players, but they bring back some encouraging pieces in Briley Metzgar and
Karis Lippert.
Oh, I was going to say Trevin Smith, but yes, they're bringing back Metzger and Smith, both players that had very nice seasons last year. And I think AGWSR, I don't think they're going to have to be a sub 5. I don't think they're going to be a sub 500 team if they're making the state tournament. I certainly think there's more regular season success in store for the Cougars. Don, it looks like you want to talk about AGWSR a little bit, where you're also a little bit conflict of interest.
No, it's a little bit of conflict of interest is a joke that of course we have, because Lippert is my cousin John, his sister, or my cousin John's wife's sister is actually Karis Lippert, so it's just an interesting little family connection there. But it's a great team to watch. And going back to that state quarterfinal, I was already in the booth typing up the Redhawks win story, and then suddenly they just started winning again and again and again, and getting point after point after point in that final set. And is about 5 into their 9 in a row. I just thought, oh my God, they're really gonna do it. They're really gonna top North Tama, and I'm just find myself erasing it, and it was a wonderfully frustrating experience. It really is, because you know that you're getting a much better story out of it. So yeah, this is a team that you can never count out. They are absolutely a dark horse going in, but absolutely fantastic team to watch, and fantastic team to cover, even if they are kind of on the outskirts of our coverage area.
Yes, Smith winning IGCA second team honors in Class 1A after racking up 804 assists in her sophomore year in 2022. Plenty of pieces in addition. Ava Olsen, Elise Olsen, and Tori Metzger also coming back, offering a little bit of experience on that team. Again, kind of like Dyke New Hartford, not starting experience, but experience all the same. I kind of trailed off there because Jim was leaning into the mic, but we'll go ahead and shift gears into Sumner Fredericksburg. I think, again, much like Dyke New Hartford, this is a team that you have to include on this list. Headlined by Isabel Elliott, who is a IGCA All-State Elite team and a first-teamer in 2A.
Northern Iowa commit, one of several on this list.
Yes, there are several in the 5 teams to watch. That was something I was going to mention with Dyke New Hartford. Northern Iowa fans, if you're watching the show, you might want to make it out to a Dyke New Hartford game this year to see 2 Northern Iowa commits in Jaden Peterson and Marin Bixby. Same thing for Sumner and Fredericksburg and in Isabel Elliott. Morgan Block is leaving the program last season. She was second on the team. Oh no, my bad. Morgan Block is a senior this year. Misread my own writing here. She had 193 kills last year. She's coming back. So Sumner Fredericksburg getting back both of their top 2 offensive pieces. I think this is a team that you certainly would like to keep your eye on this year in volleyball. Moving on to a similar situation with Denver, they're also bringing back 2 top options in Jessica Gergen and Channing Johnson. Channing Johnson led the state in assists last year with 1,219, which is incredible. It's just insane. Jessica Gergen filling in for Kayla Knowles, who is now at the University of Houston, like I mentioned. So the offense is going to open up a little bit more for Gergen, where maybe some of those options were going Knowles' way last year. She's going to get a little bit more opportunity to cook there. And again, a Denver team that I said I watched last year go up against Columbus, and they certainly felt like the better team, but Columbus was not letting them get away with that win easily. So I think that Denver is a talented team that you're going to want to keep your eye on. Channing Johnson, the daughter of head coach Jamie Johnson, so it's like having a second coach on the floor there, because Channing and Jamie can certainly think the same and be in lockstep with their communication a little bit there. And then we'll round out the list with the Union Knights. Maybe a team that got overshadowed a little bit in that deep NICL, but another team that I got to watch last year. They're losing a top end talent, but they have a senior trio coming back in Gracie Kilma, Denna Robb, and Sydney Schmucker. Oh, I misspelled her name. That is terrible. I misspelled her name. But I feel like the Knights are certainly a team to keep an eye on with that top-end senior talent. Whenever it gets to smaller schools, you want to keep your eye on. I know they're 3A, but whenever you get to smaller schools, whenever you can have that senior leadership, that usually means that a big season is in store. So I certainly want to keep my eye on the Knights going into this season. If it feels like I'm talking a mile a minute here, it's because we got a time limit, and I'm trying to get under it. So we'll go ahead and move on to my players to watch. I'll go ahead and give the list to our podcast audience, but our video audience, that'll go ahead and go up on the screen here in a moment. So that list is Isabel Elliott, like I talked about with Sumner Fredericksburg, Peyton and Jaden Peterson, Grace Hannum from Cedar Falls, a junior. She's kind of taking the runway that Katie Remmer is seeding with her graduation. We also have Jessica Gergen, Channing Johnson, two players I mentioned with Denver, Carly Willis from Grundy Center, and Reagan Wheeler from Waterloo Christian. I cheated a little bit. I did put Jaden and Peyton together. You can't make this list without those two. I really wanted to put a player like Marin Bixby on there too, but you gotta spread the love a little bit. I was already showing plenty of love to Dyke New Hartford with the 5 teams to watch. And if I'm being quite honest with you, there are about 25 players in this area that I could have put on this list. The football list was very difficult to put together. This list was virtually impossible to put together. With that said, I would like to get your guys' take on my list. Where did I maybe miss? Where did I definitely hit? Let me know my successes and my failures here.
I don't think you can go wrong here. Like you said, there's the volleyball talent in the Northeast Iowa is incredible, and we're going to look at this list at the end of the year and go, wow, we've really made a couple misses here. But, because it's so easy to make a list because there's so much talent, there's so many good teams. And, I hope some of them come back to bite us at the end of the year. That makes great writing for us at the end of the year. We're going to end up spending a whole lot of time in Coralville I believe during the state volleyball tournament, so we're going to have a plethora of teams down there. One shout out on your list that you really nailed, Carly Willis. Congratulations. She became the all-time kill leader in Grundy Center with her 1,342nd kill over the weekend, breaking a record set in 2012 by Samantha Meyer. So congratulations to Carly Willis.
Well, you're looking at the 5 teams to watch, and Grundy Center probably had a claim to be on that list as well. And so you certainly can't. And I think Grundy Center, again, has maybe one or two more players that I could have put on this list as well. That's another team you're going to want to keep your eye on, and probably a team I'm going to regret not putting on that list. And Carly Willis is kind of leading the way for the Spartans on offense there. And keep your eye on the Courier, because we're going to have a story coming out pretty soon about the volleyball talent in this area. I'm talking to some of the college coaches around this part of the state, and it's certainly a great place to be recruiting in, and man, it's a fun place to cover high school volleyball. Donald, is there anyone on this list or is there anyone not on this list that you feel like I really needed to include that I'm going to regret not putting on there?
Well, I think for now you're pretty good. Of course, you can't go wrong with Hannum and Reagan Wheeler, as we covered extensively, and then the Peterson twins. Again, you can't go wrong, especially when you've got the female athlete of the year on there. So I think we're pretty good for now. I'm curious to see what it's going to be. Like Jim said, we are so loaded with talent here in Northeast Iowa for volleyball, especially with the North Iowa Cedar League Conference and Iowa Star. You can pretty much throw a dart at the board, get that team, and get a really good athlete who's going to have a red letter year, if not for the region, then for her program.
Certainly a list that will deserve revisiting at the end of the year, and maybe a response list of the 7 players that show that they belonged on this list. I have no doubt that the 7 players on this list will confirm that they belonged on this list, but there's probably going to be 7 more, possible and significantly more, that are going to prove that they should have been on this list. And I hope I don't offend anyone with the list. It's just a fun little thing we put together to help guide maybe an uneducated volleyball fan in the area. That'll do it for our show. Any parting thoughts from you two guys before I let our audience go?
Just a great week we've had a great first week of high school athletics. We're going to talk. We'll have a lot of topics to talk about in the future. And football, cross country, swimming, all that kind of stuff. It just, it was a fun, good week, and we're getting rolling here. Bear with us. We got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to write about, and we're going to get to it all.
Yeah. Just touching on that, really great first week one of the most exciting games of the year to cover, East-West, and West is just bowling forward in its first game of the year with a 56-12 win. Really good performance under center by Brady Dean and a lot of their other key components. Really strong rushing, incredible defense. So I'm genuinely excited to see what West can do this year, and a lot of the other teams in our region.
And a great game between Dike New Hartford and Grundy Center. Grundy Center pulls out the win 7-6. That was our game of the week last week. And keep your eye on our socials so you can go ahead and vote for the game of the week this week. We'll have those candidates out to you shortly today here on Monday. Thank you for watching the show, and be sure to tune in next week as we will have more coverage of high school sports here in Iowa.